My job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
Welcome to the Black Girls Heal podcast, where we talk about healing our intimacy disorders, unresolved trauma, and building a healthy relationship with first ourselves and then others. Every episode, we will talk about advice you can apply today to break unhealthy patterns and grow in your self-worth. I'm Sheena Lachey, love addiction coach and trauma specialist. Let's begin. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Black Girls Heal. I'm so happy to be with you today. Happy January to all. Well, actually, I do want to break my normal blessings and cheer to say all of the listeners who are living in California, especially in the LA area, you have loved ones in the California area. I just want to send you all with my comfort and my prayers during this time. Some of you know that I was a natural disaster victim myself several years ago. Except for me, we were flood victims. I lost everything. And so I just want to, from someone who's gone through that and fear and everything that comes with that, again, I just want to send you all of my love and all my blessings. And I really, really pray that you're surrounded with community and friends and family, and that there are resources that continue to be available for those who need to rebuild during this time. And to take your time, I had PTSD for about a year afterwards, fear of hearing the rain and all these other things. And I'm a therapist, and I was so used to pushing through trauma and pain and just trying to get to the next step. And I just want to let you know it is okay to not be okay. It is okay to feel whatever you need to feel. And it's okay for you to be okay too. You get to experience this the way that you need to. And again, I just pray that you're surrounded by people who allow you that space and access to take your time as you need to. So with that said, I'm going to get back to our episode, and just know my prayers are with you. But today I am talking about the availability scale for relationships. So for those of you who do not know, I have published one of my 2 books. I've published the How to Pick Partners Guide for Love Addicts to help you figure out how to know if a friend, a family member, or a lover is available for you, so we can stop these cycles, break these patterns, and only connect with people who are there for us. As I was writing this book, I've talked about this before on the podcast, that there is a scale of access that you should allow people to be in your life. You're not going to give people who are in your inner circle the same amount of trust and access to people who are casual friends, to people who are strangers, to people who are frenemies or straight up enemies. And I think that's part of the wounding that we can get into relationships, especially if you're someone who's very free with trust and open. You can want to give people who are giving clear red flags that they should not be your inner circle people access to you, and then you continue to get heartbroken over and over again. So I kind of already knew that this spectrum existed, but in the book, I break down how to tell, according to how people are presenting, where they are in this availability scale. What I want to do today, though, is I want to share one of those 7 levels of availability that I came up with. Inside the book, there's a whole point system and everything for you to rate and rank people, and which is like a nod to me and my other fellow personality quiz nerds for you out there who may love that. But yeah, for today, I'm going to talk about the 7 levels, and I hope that this gives you insight to kind of the spectrum again of where people can fall into your life. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Before we get started, let's take a small break to say thank you to this week's sponsors. Alrighty. Okay. So the 7 levels of availability, according to me, this is created by me, copyrighted by me, the availability scale for relationships. You will find it if you're looking at the first edition of the book, because I may reprint down the road and maybe add some things and all that. But in the first edition of the How to Pick Partners for Love Addicts book by Sheena Lachey, which you can find on Amazon, the 7 levels are Best friend, lover, and partner, BLP availability, level 1. Level 2 is good friend availability. Level 3 is associate availability. Level 4 is casual acquaintanceship availability. Number 5 is stranger danger availability. And number 6 is extremely dangerous availability. And number 7, critically dangerous availability. Yes, I do have different levels of danger ranked because some of us will get into relationships with people that are giving like they're a circus, like they're like rolling through their Cirque du Soleil. They have all the flags and they're flipping and flying in front of us. And we're like, well, it's bad, but it's not that bad. And that's okay. Where got you, girl? So we're going to talk about the different levels of danger for those of us who kind of like to toe the line, so that you can know who's dangerous and who is not dangerous. Okay. So when I was thinking about doing this episode, I was like, I wonder if I should start instead of going from the top down, going from the most positive level and then going down to the most dangerous. I was like, should I start in the middle? Should I start in the middle? And so that way we can see, okay, if we have someone who's kind of middle of the road, what does it look like for the relationship to get better? And then we can look at, okay, what happens when someone that we think is middle of the road is actually taking it straight to hell? What does that look like? So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. So the middle is casual acquaintance availability. So for those of you who have not read the book or heard me talk about this in some previous episodes, inside the book, How to Pick Partners for Love Addicts, there are 40 signs of availability and unavailability. 20 signs of availability for people who are good for you that you should be looking out for, that these are the people who are your people, and then 20 signs, people who are not. And the 20 signs for unavailability are true red flags, relationship destroyer things that do not get balanced out, right? So they're not quirky things like chew with their mouth open, dirty versus not dirty, even though for some of you, some of these things are deal breakers, right? But some of you will get with someone who aesthetically has all the habits and the quirks and the interests that you want. But meanwhile, they are the biggest wolf in the hen house. They are the people who will completely destroy you. But because they have all of these things that on one of your lists seem like they would be make or breaks in the relationships, you will give someone a chance and they will completely ravish you, destroy your self-esteem and all these other things. So I need the girlies to know, girlies, guilies, themlies, everybody, anyone that like this scale, these qualities fit for every single relationship, every single intimate relationship that you're in, which is also very good for those of you who are making work friendships and relationships. My stance on this podcast, me personally, is professional relationships are not your real friends. And you won't find that out until after you leave. If you leave and y'all are still going to each other's baby showers and you've moved on and y'all are still going to each other's weddings and having late night after hour, happy hour sessions, then great. That is someone who is your friend. But I will always, always, always caution people that while you're in a professional relationship with people, I don't care what y'all been through together, just be mindful because professional relationships at the end of the day are about money, security, and safety. And you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself in the same way that someone on the other side may protect themselves as well. Anyways, that is a tangent. So, what I was saying about, I want to make sure that everyone knows that there's different levels of availability. So, I created a scale where each of these 40 qualities equate to a point system. So, for the points of availability, the 20 signs and characteristics for that, on the scale that you will see in the book, and there are actual worksheets that are available for you to get. There's a workbook that goes along with this, or you can just look at the worksheet that's within the book as well. Each one of the positive qualities is worth a positive 20 points, and all the negative ones are worth negative 50. Again, because I need y'all to understand, no, it's a positive 10 points for positive qualities and negative 50 for the negative ones. Because again, we will get into relationships with people who are our ops. They are clearly our ops. Everybody else can see it. We might even have an inkling of them being an op and be like, well, you know what? I can change though. Not everybody's perfect. I can deal with this. I'll just be clear about having my boundaries and communicate. my limits, and no one's going to get over on me because I can see with my eyes wide open what's going on. And that's not how relationships work, especially if these are people that you're intimate with, whether or not it's physically or emotionally. You will soften. You will absolutely soften. And it will be very hard for you to, or if not impossible, for you to differentiate and to be able to tell how this may be slowly degrading how you feel about yourself until you're already committed. And then on top of that, you may be one of those folks who, at the end of the day, after someone has ravaged your life, you'd be like, you take the blame for their bad behavior and be like, well, I saw what was happening and I knew that they were no good and I still kept going. Girl, you're not responsible for the toxicity of somebody else, right? Like, they still chose, even if you saw what was going on, they still chose to manipulate you, to use all their tactics against you, to drain you. You know, they are responsible for their actions. You're not responsible for their actions. Now, you can be responsible for, now that you have had this experience, for you to make some different decisions for yourself to get this book so that you can have a black and white tool to make sure that you don't do this again, right? Which is why I really try, whether or not it's in my programs or outside, even in the dating course. Some of y'all know that I have a whole program outside of the recovery school. It's a bonus that's included in the recovery school, which is the main coaching program that I use to help women heal from love addiction and love avoidance. It's called the Love Addiction Recovery School, and you can find it at therecoveryschool.com. But one of the bonus programs that come with that is the dating course, the Dating 101 for Love Addicts. And that is at blackgirlsheal.org/dating. But within there, I have legitimate black and white. Here is your dating plan. Here are the things we look out for. This is how you rank, outside of this availability scale, all the other things that you really want in a partner and that light you up and all that. This is how you rank that. This is how you scale that. Because a lot of us need to get out of our feelings. And some of us are so much in our head that it's also hard for us to pay attention to the good things, to pay attention to the blessings, and we will invent ways to move away from people who are good for us. And so you need boundaries and standards in the opposite direction to cage you in when you're trying to break these partnerships. So that is why as I'm about to read these 7 levels, I might talk about the point system that's related to each of them, but why they can scale so heavily, because the positive ones are only worth 10 and the negative ones are worth 50, because the negative ones are not canceled out by the positive ones. The negative ones are always going to be 5 times worse than the positive ones. And I think we need to know that. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump on in. So I've already told y'all the 7 levels. For the sake of time for today's episode, I might not read the description of all 7 levels. Might bounce around. And actually, we've already tried to do this starting from the middle, going from the top and the back. And I was like, that feels too chaotic. So I am going to start from the top and go down, but I might skip a couple levels here and there. But again, all this is broken down in the book. First level, best friend, lover, partner availability, BLP. These are your people. And by the way, I have already kind of tested this scale with people in my life, with some of my clients, talking about who are the people in your life who are the most available to you and ranking them. And it is very easy when someone is healthy and secure and available for you to get all of these points, to get all 200 points. 200 is the highest amount of points that someone can get. And we all know that there's a spectrum in our relationships. There are some friends who may be inner circle people, and there are friends that are really, really close, very, very good to us, but they are not going to get the same access to our hearts and to our dreams and to our embarrassing moments as someone who's in the inner circle versus someone who is a good or close friend. We want folks who are in the BLP level. These are the people that we are looking at building lives with. These are the people who are going to be our chosen family. They're the family members that, even when we're biologically related, when we're scanning, who are we going to talk and trust with what's going on in our life? That's who we're going to go to, even if it's our second cousin once removed. But everybody who is closer to us are extremely dangerous or critically dangerous. We're not going to trust someone just because they're our mom and we should be able to trust them, right? We're not going to trust someone just because this is our auntie who's gone through the same things that we've gone through if she is destructive and, sometimes and flaky. We're not going to trust someone who is a sibling just because they're a sibling if they have all these signs or qualities that they will use us and pushes away whenever it is convenient for them, right? We need to be very clear about who we give the BLP level and status to. And again, that's what the scale is for, to help you get clarity with that. So let me go ahead and read the description and fill things in as I go along. So people who are the BLP level availability, best friend, lover, and partner. This person meets all the markers of availability and is an excellent candidate to be your best friend, lover, or partner in some capacity. You can trust that they will be open and honest and care about your experience as well. From here, you are free to assess for compatibility if you would like to build a connection long term, especially for romantic partnership. It is possible that you will meet someone who has these incredible qualities, but you are not a good fit in values, common interests, or in what you want long term. Let me pause here from the reading. Some of us, especially when we first start dating, we're breaking all these patterns and we're getting healthier and we're raising our standards and all this stuff. Some of us can hope and expect that, especially those of us who are moving into romantic partnerships, that the first set of people that we meet are going to be our person. We've done the work, right? Like we have sweated, we've cried, we've prayed, we've manifested, we have healed our inner child, we've gone on the trips, we've had periods of celibacy, we've done all the things. So when we first start to meet someone, we are getting closer to God, to our higher power, spirit, whatever, whoever that is for you, if that applies. We're looking at our Venus returns, right? Like, let me just cover everybody. We got the crystals on lock. We've saved. We've done the egg cleanses. Like we've done all the things, right? So we got the ancestors on lock, telling us it's time to go. So we can expect that our first set of relationships should be it, right? Like this should be evidence, tangible evidence that who's in front of me is proof that this works, that this has not all been for nothing. I've been doing this for myself. Like some of us start our healing journey because we just want to find a partner. And along the way, we find the most incredible person we've ever met, which is you. You know, that's one of the gifts that I love, that women who go through the recovery school program will tell me they find on the other side. They found themselves first, which helps them find their person, if that's something that they want. But what is going to happen, most likely, this is not everybody, but most likely what's going to happen is you're going to start shifting your standards in the types of people that you're dating. So you're going to start dating really great people. You're going to find really great people that you have a lot in common with, that you share the same faith in, that they are pursuing you in the way that you want to be pursued, but they might not be the right person for you to connect with. They might not be someone who long term, the way that you show your values is the way that they want to share their values. Long term, y'all might have different life missions and perspectives. Y'all might have different temperaments, right? At first, you'll really connect and your communication style is great, but the more you actually talk and get to know each other, the more you're like, I actually don't like how they have conversations or arguments or disagreements. And yeah, we kind of got through this first level of things, but doing this long term, I don't think I can do this, because remember, I want to give y'all two phrases that I've said before that you may have heard in some other aspects from other healers or wise people or whatever. Is if you marry someone with big ears, over time, their ears only get bigger. So whatever you think that you like, you see what's going on, you see what's happening, you're like, you know what, I can kind of deal with this. You know, it's annoying, but it's okay. Whatever you think is annoying now, I need you to multiply it by 100. And when you're in love, you don't hear that. So I feel like I'm low key. I feel like I'm kind of talking to myself here, because I remember being in that space and people saying stuff like that, and you're like, oh yeah, totally. And you're like, you take it again. I have a whole degree in marriage and family therapy and would help people through this all the time. And so I just knew that I knew. I knew that my eyes were open. Your girl's eyes weren't open. I saw what I wanted to see. But I thought, this was also still in my codependency and self-denial and self-abandonment phase. So love was still, even though I gone through my healing work, love was still something that I exalted. So when I would see things, I was like, I can deal with it. I was so used to dealing with things and taking care of people and taking care of others. But no, 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 no. Those things, whatever is a minor inconvenience right now, will be very, very impossible. So very impossible. Because, and the reason why I'm saying that is usually the things that are kind of are in this category are the things that when you're living with it day in and day out, even if it's something that may feel minor, they are the things that you're like, I don't know if I could do this forever. Like I'm about to jump across this table. And some of these things are things that are truly relationship and family destroying. But because you have been so used to picking up the slack and going without and minimizing your needs, it's not on your radar yet. So I say all that to say, if you meet someone who's really great and you have some things that are incompatible, to pay attention to that, because over time, someone with big ears, their ears only get bigger. And, shout out to anyone who has beautiful, voluptuous ears. I love that. That is not a deal breaker for me, but it's just a phrase that I've heard along the way. So change that however you may need to, but in a way that may fit for you. The other phrase, cliche thing, lesson that I want to share is, when you meet someone, the true testament of love is looking at them exactly from who and where they are, exactly where they are right now, all of their growth areas, all their insecurities, all the ways that they are so good at loving you and being thoughtful and being kind organically, and all the ways that they are organically neglectful, the things that are not on their radar, because there's no such thing as someone who sees and considers everything. Like, we're all going to be having conversations with people where, like, hey, like, at the very least, when you said that, what did you mean? Because you're learning each other's languages, right? Even with the people that we were heavily in simpatico with, like, we still were gonna have to figure out, hey, best friend, why did you do that, best friend? That don't like, we'll still have those conversations and moments, even if they're slight. But real love is seeing someone with who and where they are exactly, and saying, this right here, is this something that I can deal with? Is this someone who I can love forever? Exactly. And none of this ever changes. Again, I think many of us, especially when you're in love and when you're in those feelings and you've kind of already started to attach to that fantasy, it's very easy for you to be like, yeah, of course, I got this. Until the honeymoon ends and the hormones kind of like fade a little bit. And then you're like, actually, this is low key annoying. And so it's going to be very important for you to, as much as you can, have a wise mind about that. Use objective tools to help you. Another way that I've heard this kind of same sentiment said, but it's completely opposite, but I think it gets to the same heart, is if someone were to tell you that the friend or the partner that you have, if they were to say, hey, you remind me so much of them, you are just like them, would you take that as a compliment? Would you feel flattered by that? Is the way that this person shows up in the world and who they are those all the things, the good and the bad? Are those all things that you're like, yeah, I could totally like take that as my mantle? Because some of us, that's going to be the clincher. For some of us, it's actually no. Like, some of you may realize with asking yourself that question, that you've actually been on an unsaid rehabilitation program for this person. Like, you have been in your mind, yeah, when we're together, I'm going to help them build their business. I'm going to help them, get into therapy. We're gonna be doing it like we're growing together, right? So again, you probably didn't realize that you kind of have a fantasy of who this person could be that you've been attached to, because you have been in progress helping to rehabilitate them and to grow and manifest them into being something that they're not. And I think you need to see people for who they are, where they are right now. Because who wants to be loved by someone with exceptions? Like, if I am being loved by someone, I want them to see me flaws and all and to accept me. I don't want it to be conditional. I don't want it to be, yeah, I love you right now as long as your body stays a certain size. I love you as long as you keep talking to me the same way forever and ever, and you're not allowed to have a bad day. I love you as long as these little quirks and things that you got going on, they're key for right now, but I have a long-term plan to change those in your life without my consent. Right? Like, it'd be different if these are things that I actually want to grow in and the person I'm with has these strengths and they want to pour into me. Then yeah, absolutely. But if this is like, I'm not good enough, like if this is coming from a tip that's like, I'm not good enough as I am, and you're trying to make me to be something that I'm not, no, no, thank you. You can take that and move right on along. Okay.
Hey, we hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Let's take a quick break to say thanks to this week's sponsors.
So I wanted to pause in the middle of reading that because I think it can be discouraging for some folks once they start dating, and then you might even have a really amazing relationship with someone. and end up breaking up and feel really heartbroken. Now, heartbroken in a different way because you broke through your love addiction, right? Like you are no longer tied to this idea that this is the end all be all, but you were very excited and you're very excited to be done, but to not have to worry about any of this again. So having to go through the pain and the heartbreak of that is really hard. But also because I really want to make sure that people know that your option for choice is unlimited. It is out there. You do not have to, once you meet someone who is kind and good to you, try to make that be something that it's not. You don't have to try to make fetch happen. And I think some of us who've gone down that road to try to figure out, some of us might go down that road because we can't tell if this is our pickiness that we've dealt with our whole life. We can't tell if this is the normal norming and storming stage of relationship. We can't tell if this is just me being on my cycle. Like we can't tell what it is. It is just them going through things, the economy has got everybody stressed out. Like what let me give this some more time and space to figure it out. And that's okay. Some of us we may need to do that. And it might be any of those things. Or it might just be that we are figuring out where our standards are now. And some of the things that you might have been willing to compromise before for lesser people, even though the person in front of you is really great, you're not willing to do that now. And that's okay. That is okay. I actually think that's great because I think that means that you found a greater joy inside of yourself, which I do believe will be rewarded with the types and levels of relationships that you allow into your life going forward. Okay. So look at this. Now you can see why I'm probably not going to read all 7 levels for today, because there's so many lessons in each of these. That was the hardest part of writing these books. And I think that's also why this no contact book, even though it's a book I started before, is taking me so long because it keeps getting longer and bigger. And I'm like, I wanted this to be just like a quick little guide, but it's definitely bigger than the How to Pick Partners book. So we will see. We will see. But going back to the best friend level partner availability, best friend lover partner availability, after we've kind of assessed all the things, the third paragraph in chapter 10 for this level says, for those where there is shared compatibility on shared interests, values, and long-term goals, these qualities will not prevent you from having to put in effort in the relationship. That's a sermon all on its own. Okay, let me say this again. For those people who they meet all 200 points, and y'all have shared compatibility on your interests, your values, your long-term goals, all of those things clicking into place does not mean that you will not have to put in effort into this relationship and they will not need to put in effort into you. Okay? The presence of these qualities do not mean that you will not ever have miscommunications and disagreements. Rather, it does mean that when these occur, you both will have the skill sets and emotional maturity to work through these conflicts and grow together. Again, I know that some of you currently have or will have the relationships that people kind of watch and they're like, that's not true. That's not real. Like when you are really with the person that is your best friend. And it all makes sense why everything else did not work out before. And even in those best friend relationships, y'all are going to need to work things out, But because of the person, the quality of relationship that you have, working things out with this person is going to be 100 times better than any type of conflict and growth moment that you had with people before. But it will still happen, and that's okay. And for someone like me, where the way that my avoidance has shown up is constantly looking for perfection in so many different areas in so many different ways, so that when or if I do hit roadblocks with a person, my quickness to be like, all right, well, I don't need this. See ya, is very quick to come out. That is more of a trauma response. Sometimes it is like, yeah, girl, you don't need this. It's time to move. But part of the way that I learned as a young girl to be safe in the world is anytime there's any type of discomfort or friction, it's time to go. So I have had to learn how to differentiate between the two, and I'm better than I was before. And the more I grow in my confidence and my self love and all those other things, the quicker is I am in making a decision either way. But just want to say that. All right. Since I'm here, let's go ahead and talk about good friend level availability, and then I'm going to skip a few because an associate is after that. So, because good friend is right before. So, if 200 points credit all 20 qualities of availability, is how you know if someone is a good candidate for either being a best friend, a lover, partner, BLP. After that is a good friend. So the good friend point system is between 150 and 199. Okay. So at the level of good friend, they are someone you may spend time with often and share parts of your life with. However, they may not be someone you do so with consistently. This person meets most of the markers of availability and shows that they have a genuine interest in your well being and for showing up for the relationship. Depending on the availability markers that are not present, you can decide if this is a relationship that you would like to invest in more to see if the markers may be reciprocated on their side as well, or just leave them as a good friend. So, when you go through the markers, there is an opportunity that if someone has a sign of unavailability, they're just going to deduct points, right? But there's also the possibility that you know someone and you see all these really great things, but you're not close enough to where you see some other qualities. That doesn't mean that they're not there. It doesn't mean that they are not possible of giving that to you. It just means y'all are still growing together. You're still learning how to trust each other. You're still hanging out. You're still opening up different parts of your life together. So at this point, very good friends. This is very good. Also, this whole scale is very good for those of us who try to rush 100% into relationships. You want to have kismet firework connections with all of your relationships immediately. So whether or not you meet a new friend at yoga or Pilates, or whether or not you met someone on a dating app, or you've been introduced by friends, you want to have 200 miles per hour, fireworks with every new connection. And that is not always how it's going to be. I personally love when I get to meet those people. Like we think we're cracking up, we're kikiing, like instant fast friends. Those are great moments to have. And for some people, it takes a slower burn. Especially as an adult getting to know people, you can meet someone and have great chemistry, but the way your calendars are set up, you're only going to have your first friend date for another 5 weeks. Right? Like you may be someone that when you get together, you really truly understand each other, but y'all might only have certain small windows because you only see each other at certain events. One or other people may have children that prevents their ability to be available. One or the other person might have a big tragic loss that's going on. So right when y'all are starting to connect, this person is grieving now. And so your momentum stops a little bit. So anything can happen. And so it's about learning how to be patient, seeing people for where they are, not making up stories about why or something a quality may or may not be there. And I go through that a lot in the book as well. I have a breakdown of all 20 of the signs for availability and all 20 of the signs of unavailability, and then also chapters around there are special circumstances. So you need to determine, does this mean this person is actually not a good fit for me? Or are they? But here are some things for me to keep in mind for me to figure out, is this something that I want to invest in or not? When someone is a good friend, it is possible for them to graduate to being your best friend, lover, or partner if they are mutually interested in being on that level of closeness with you as well. Okay. But again, you can't make French happen. There might be some people that you really connect with, that you love, that you want to get to know better, but they only have the space and they only want you to be a good friend. Okay. So that's going to be something that you might need to accept if that's something that you go across. Okay. After good friend availability, there's associated availability. So just I'll say very briefly, this is someone that you might have a shared activity with, but they are not necessarily a good friend. Then we have casual acquaintance availability, kind of like an associate. However, these are lower point periods, right? So these are people who are like in the 50 to 90 range, which is very low, because that means that there are some basic standards of caring, of decency, of respect that might not be there. And it's possible that they may have a whole lot of really great qualities of availability, but now we're getting into the category where there are some negative things that are happening that we gotta keep in mind. So I might want them to be best friend, lover, partner because we have a lot of things that are clicking. But based on this scale, for me being between 50 and 99%, I need to actually keep them in casual acquaintance. They need to say exactly where they are, and I need to kind of get out of my head, get out of the fantasy of making them better. So, with that said, let's talk about the level that's underneath that, which is stranger danger availability. So, we got associate, we got casual acquaintance, now we got stranger danger. This is someone who has between 49 points to negative 100. Remember, we are deducting points for when people have signs of unavailability. All right, so this is when we first start getting into the negative. So let's read. At this level, if you believe you're close with this person, there may be elements of deception in this relationship due to the multiple signs of unavailability needed to make this score set. Thus, the title stranger is appropriate. Though you may be intimately connected with them, you may not really know them at all. Even if there are signs of availability with multiple signs of unavailability present, there is a high probability that this person is breadcrumbing and masking to get what they want from you. Possibilities of what they could want include proximity to your status and energy, financial resources, emotional support, sexual contact and intimacy, entertainment, temporary companionship, they're only here for a moment, caretaking and domestic support, career advancement and advice, and much more. The breadcrumbing and masking are not always done maliciously. While there are some people who are intentionally predatory, some are unaware of how their distancing techniques affect others and the relationship. However, at this level, one should not excuse any signs of unavailability as being solely based on ignorance. Even if not malicious in intent, this person is still intentionally keeping your relationship superficial at best and transactional to their benefit at worst. If they are not showing up with full emotional honesty and transparency, should you have someone in your life that ranks at this level, it is important to pay attention to where and how they show up consistently in your life. Are you magnifying moments of kindness based on what you would like to see versus what precedes and surrounds those events? Are they disappointing you consistently more often than them showing up fully? So here's an example of that sentence, that question that's like, are you magnifying moments of kindness based on what you would like to see versus looking at what comes before and what happens after? So in the no contact book, or the no contact program. For those of you who are entering no contact, you can still get the 90-day program by going to blackgirlsheal.org/no contact, and I break down what to do each month of no contact for you to finally break your trauma bond cycles. But one of the things that I teach in the program is something called reminder lists. And so each of the lists are for different things, but one of the things that I have people write down are the positive things that happen in the relationship. And sometimes there's some hemming and hawing around it because they're like, this is someone I'm trying to get away from. I'm not trying to remember all the good times. I'm not trying to, like, I need to stay mad. I need to stay, in my negative space for me to be strong enough. And I'm like, the girl, that's one that doesn't last because that's a whole lot of emotional energy, and also it's not realistic. So I tell them to do one of the lists is about the positive things. One of the reasons I want them to do it is because one is they're writing down the list. They find that the list is probably not as long as they thought it would be. Like they are thinking that, yeah, I have all these negative things that happen, but this was such a great relationship. But once I actually put pen to paper, when I see how short that list is, they're like, for real? So like it's like, really? Like this is what I thought was evening out with all the negative things that were happening. So it's really good for you to have that. But the other thing is, even if there were really positive moments that have happened in the relationship, writing it out, this is what has constantly been offered back to me. They might write out something that's like really sweet. If I get to see the list, they might write out something that was very sweet. So like they took me at a picnic on a park on my birthday, right? But then as they're telling me the story, they're the ones who start to offer up, yeah, but I was the one who has to send them a list of everything that I wanted, and they got cheese, even though I'm lactose intolerant, and they know that, but they were like, they forgot. And then, I had to get an extra blanket because it was raining outside and they didn't quite remember it. Or the whole picnic goes great, but then they go hang out with their boys afterwards and leave them alone for 10 hours without answering their phone. Like there's always something before or after that when they actually remember the whole event and what led into it, who actually planned it, what was happening, it's like actually that wasn't as magical as I've made it seem. Like I'm selectively ignoring some details so that I can kind of stay in the comfort of these positive memories. When you're in such a destructive relationship, whether that relationship is with your father or your mother or a lover or the father of your children or mother of your children, or your best friend that you've had for 20 years that you're slowly starting to realize maybe she don't like me, or maybe she's extra competitive with me in a way that doesn't feel good, or maybe I've been giving more to this person who's emotionally unstable and I'm tired of doing it. Remembering the positive moments is a healing balm for you sometimes, or you want it to be a healing balm. You want it to provide the warmth and the security and safety that this relationship hasn't been giving you. And so kind of ripping that away is uncomfortable at first and you feel really exposed. But once you actually are clear, you're like, wait, this person has never been safe for me. So this whole time you've been mourning this relationship because you've been so afraid of what you would lose, right? If you actually had to step away. But once you get clarity around it, you're like, well, I'm actually not losing anything. I'm actually losing a big source of my pain. Right. So now what you actually do need to grieve is not the person, but the fantasy of what you thought you had. Right. And that could be very painful in itself because you realize how lonely you've been this whole time. We don't want that to happen in 2025, y'all. We only want to bring in good news and good things. Okay. So all of that to say, this is all available in the book. We're hitting on, 45 minutes. I knew that this was going to go longer. There are, after the level of stranger danger, there is emotionally dangerous unavailability for negative 101 to 500 points. Then we got critically dangerous unavailability for negative 500 to negative 1,000 points. And then, oh wait, that's all though. No, did I skip one? Oh, sorry. Yeah, she is extremely dangerous after stranger danger and then critically dangerous. Because again, some of us we'll see the red flags in people's hands and then we'll take it and start to do a little ribbon routine. we'll start we'll play some music and start our own little gymnastics routine with the red flags. And that's okay. If we need to start wherever we are, that's okay. This book will get you straight. So, How to Pick Partners for Love Addicts by Sheena Lachey is available on Amazon. I hope you enjoy it. Please leave a positive 5-star review if you love it so that other people can find it. And of course, your rating is your choice. I feel like I think I read somewhere you got to give those disclaimers. And it's your choice what you rate it. But please rate it if it is a very positive review. So that other people can learn. For those of you who are ready to break these cycles long term, the Recovery School program is open and available for enrollment. It is what I've been doing for years to help women get to the other side of the cycle. And so that even when you have this great foundation of knowing someone's available and knowing someone is good for you, how do I actually move closer to people? How do I stop being avoidant myself? How do I be available? How do I clear out all this trauma and stuff that gets in the way from me moving forward, right? That is what the Love Addiction Recovery School is for. So again, you can learn more by going to therecoveryschool.com, or you can take the free masterclass that talks about the program and also tells you the 4-step method to break these cycles, and that's completely free. So, and that is at blackgirlsheal.org/masterclass. My gosh, I've given y'all so many things to do in this episode. So I hope that you enjoy them all and that you find them all helpful. That is it for now. I look forward to seeing y'all in the next episode. And as always, take care of yourselves.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Before we get started, let's take a small break to say thank you to this week's sponsors.